Hi, it's Laura at Aquamarine18. Thanks for stopping by my channel today. Welcome or welcome back. In this video, I'll be sharing my review of a deck that has recently joined my collection, the Crystal Forests, an intuitive card deck by Jess Purser. In this review, I will be sharing my experience with the Kickstarter, which is where I backed the deck, the details of the kind of publication of the deck, so the cardstock and the packaging and all of those things that people love to find out about. I will share my thoughts on the contents of the guidebook, and finally I will show all of the cards and just do a bit of a chatty, rambly walkthrough of those. So I'll do my best to timestamp below in a way that makes sense, so if you just want to skip ahead to the part that shows all the cards, then you can do so. So I mentioned previously that I backed this deck on Kickstarter, and I will say that the Kickstarter was a positive experience. I know that this was not just the creator's first Kickstarter, and it shows. It was very well organized. There was a lot of details about the deck on the Kickstarter when the Kickstarter was running. And this is also a second edition of this deck, so much of the deck had already been created. From my understanding, the second edition differs from the first in the sense that the back of the cards is different. Some of the way that the metallic gold printing is done is different. And there are also several new cards which were voted on by backers during the campaign. I didn't really participate in that part, but there was some different options to choose from, and the backers got some say there. So it is different from the first edition, but much of the art hasn't changed. So that was, I'm sure, a factor in the fact that the production timeline for the most part was pretty on track. Jess was really communicative throughout. There was a delay with one of the extras, which was, I think, bookmarks. This was a item that people could have, as a result of a stretch goal. And when those were delayed, Jess offered the option, if we wanted to pick a sticker and a postcard instead, which is what I did. The postcard I don't have to show you because I taped it up in my office, and stickers, so I did get my deck a little bit sooner. I like that Jess offered these options. I think that it's thoughtful, particularly for folks who might have backed it as a gift or something like that, who were more keen to have it on a particular timeline. It's a nice option. I'm never really bothered by delays on Kickstarter. Things happen. So I think that being patient is important in that respect, but the experience was good. The deck comes in a two-piece box that is sturdy and, arrived in good shape along with its guidebook, which is separate. I will say something that I really appreciate that the creator did with this deck is be mindful of the packaging. So the deck was not shrink wrapped in plastic, and it was also shipped in a biodegradable, non-plastic bag to keep it safe. I think that particularly if you're making decks that are inspired by nature, and Jess talks about loving forests and that being the inspiration for her art, then I want to see some consideration in the production of the deck itself of the environmental impacts that can happen with products like this. So I really, really appreciate that aspect. I love that there's no plastic. That makes me very happy. So in terms of the production, I do think that the book could have been fit inside the box. It's not that much larger than the box, and it would have been nice, I think, if it was all kind of self-contained, but this is fine too. I do tend to keep my books separately, so that's a suggestion. I'm not, particularly bothered. The box, though it does not have the finger holes that I like, opens really easily, so that's great. It does mean that if I was going to put this in my backpack and just tote it around, that I would probably put it inside of a pouch, or at least put some kind of elastic band around it or something, because obviously with it being easy to open, it means it's easy to fall open as well. But I think that this packaging is good. It's not cumbersome. It fits on a shelf nicely. I'm happy with that. And the book is nicely printed, and it's, full color. So I guess I'll go to the guidebook then next, since I'm mentioning the printing. The guidebook is quite basic in terms of its contents, which is not a criticism. It's just very focused on the cards and the interpretations of the cards with not a lot of extra material beyond that, which I think is completely fine. I don't think that every deck needs to have the same 3 card spreads over and over again. So I like when things are straight to the point. You have an introduction from Jess explaining a little bit about the creative inspiration for the deck and a few suggestions for single card draws, for using a card for meditation, things like that. Just very, very brief. And then it goes straight into the contents. Each card gets 1 page, and about a little less than 2/3 of the page is taken up by a full color image that look beautiful. And then the bottom is the meaning of the cards. And they're organized alphabetically, so it's easy to find. The cards are not numbered in any way. It doesn't really matter because everything is alphabetized. As the name of the deck suggests, these are forest paintings inspired by the colors of crystals. So each card has a name that has a crystal's name in it, and that's what it's alphabetized by. So we have almandine garnet at the beginning and wolfenite at the end. And after wolfenite, it's just the back cover. That's it. It's just the interpretations of the cards and nothing else. I like that it doesn't really need a bunch else. If I was going to add one thing, I would be curious to maybe have a little list of books or other resources that inspired Jess in terms of her understanding of what different crystals are associated with, or perhaps a couple of books on forests that she really enjoys. I think that would be a cool addition, but it's not something that in any way would be needed to read this deck. The colors are great in the guidebook. They're really, really beautifully recreated here. I do think, again, with most of these pages being image, this could have been shrunk down and fit in the book, fit in the box, excuse me. But it's a nice book. It's well made. I think it will be sturdy. Paper feels nice, and that's good. In terms of the content, I like the amount of text per card. It's enough to give an idea. It's enough to perhaps give some inspiration for meditation if that's how you would like to use the cards. It's certainly one way that I would use these. It's nurturing and encouraging without feeling overly sweet, which is good. And it touches on interpretations of the properties of the crystals in a kind of metaphysical or energetic sense. And sometimes other things about the crystals, like perhaps where in the world they're found and things like that. So, it gives enough. And I think that that's good. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I mean, I'll read one at the end. I'll pick a card and read one so that you can get a sense of what the write-up is like. I think it's a good write-up, And I prefer a little paragraph like this over just, something like keywords, right? It gives you more to work with, which is nice, and it's nicely written. So happy with that. In terms of the cards themselves, only taking 8 minutes to get to the deck itself, I really like the cardstock of these. They are 350 GSM. They're very sturdy. They're quite thick feeling. They will definitely stand up to a lot of shuffling, I think. And they have a kind of smooth finish. So it's not rose petal kind of matte. It's not glossy either. It's a smooth kind of a finish. They are not at all sticky. They shuffle really, really well. The edges are plain. You could easily edge them. One of the options that you could pick on the campaign was to have a copy that the creator would edge for you, which I know my friend Patrice got, and it looks lovely. I opted against it. I wasn't sure, if I might prefer to edge it myself or leave it as is, but I think that, the plain edges are fine. You could edge it in a number of different colors. So I really like the feel of these cards. They feel well made, and they're a large, kind of wide tarot size. So, I mean, you don't know how big my hand is. This isn't very helpful, but it's wider than your average tarot card, certainly, and a nice size to shuffle to me. Now, the backs of the deck. These are new with the second edition. I'm not sure what the first edition ones looked like. They have this tree on them, and hopefully you can see it's kind of textural behind the tree there, which is quite cool looking. I like these backs. They remind me of the gold flower on the backs of Le Terre Noir. It's, it's a nice, not minimalist, but, it's kind of plain. They look nice on a table. I will say I do feel like the backs and the fronts kind of don't go together. The fronts are very, very colorful and come in this beautiful range of color, and they're very soft because they're watercolor. And this doesn't feel the same to me energetically as the fronts. Obviously, thematically, in terms of being a tree, that makes complete sense. I do feel like maybe a bit more color would have been nice. But I also really like the look of this. Like, forgetting or not thinking about what the fronts look like I think that this looks really nice. So I like the back. The back is never like a huge deal for me, but they're nice. Now, I'll share the cards in a flip through fashion here, and then we'll pick one and look at the guidebook. So I've got them here in the alphabetical order they came in. Again, they're not numbered, so it doesn't really, matter, but they're easy to find in the guidebook. Each card has the name of the crystal that inspired the painting and also one keyword. I will say, and you'll probably see this on camera, my one complaint about this deck is that I find the text quite hard to read. I think it will be very hard to read on camera. It is a very thin gold font, and it's a serif font. And with all of these colors, inevitably, with a one color text, it's going to be hard to read on some of the cards more than others. I ran into this making my own deck. It's a challenge. So I will make sure that I read them out. So this is the Almondine Garnet Forest, which is related to commitment. And I think these are great cards for pathworking or imaginative meditation on a theme. Amazonite is harmony. And I really like that the guidebook goes well beyond the single keyword as well. Amethyst for wisdom. Aventurine for manifestation. And you can see here the text is a bit challenging. It's even more challenging on the more yellowy backgrounds. Black tourmaline is protection. Bloodstone is altruism. And this really, you can really tell in some of them, you wouldn't even need the name of the crystal to know which crystal inspired the card. And I will say, what really attracts me to this deck is having a way to work with correspondences of crystals without crystals themselves, because crystals for me pose a lot of problems in terms of the labor involved, in terms of the environmental ramification involved in mining them, and the very dangerous conditions that happens under for very, very poorly paid workers. So this doesn't pose that same challenge for me. This is Blue Apatite for truth. So I really like, I don't own hardly any of these crystals, but now I can learn a little bit about them. And I think that's great. Blue Goldstone is authenticity. I believe blue goldstone is actually a kind of glass. Blue kyanite is peace. Blue lace agate is tenderness. I'm sure you probably can't see the... These are all legible in person. I can read all of these in person. Some of them you need to really get the card to catch the light in the right way. Like this one, Brachiated Jasper for reparation, with the colors of the card, which are beautiful. Like, these paintings are gorgeous. That text, you probably can barely tell that it's there. It was smart, I think, to have a little bit of metallic in the ink, because it does, if I catch the light, it becomes much more readable in person. I think it will be challenged to capture it on camera. This is Bumblebee Stone for self-esteem. And it really looks crystal-like. You know, it's very textural, these paintings. They're really beautiful. I would hang one of these on my wall in a second. If it was bigger, obviously, and wasn't part of a deck. Citrine is Joy. Chrysocolla, one of my favorites. Diplomacy. I love these colors. Chrysoprase, Forgiveness. I like the ones that have more kind of color variety in them as well, like this one. Copper for Love. And that looks very coppery, not just in color, in the kind of texture, which I think is really special. Chrosoite, maybe? Vitality. Dragon's Blood Jasper for Power. Fire Opal for Realization. And I will say I do like that the balance of the keywords in this deck. They're not, they don't feel overly positive or negative, most of them. Certainly some of them go, you know, do skew one way or the other, but as an overall, you know, I think that you could get a balanced reading from this if you wanted to just read with this deck on its own. This is definitely more of a one-card draw kind of a deck for me. But I think you could do, you know, a 3-card reading and get a great reading from this. Golden Healer, High Vibration. I don't do things about vibrations, I don't know. Kambaba, Jasper, Release. Like, look at how stone-like this looks. I think that is very cool. Very pretty. Labradorite, one of my favorites. Transmutation. These colors are extraordinary. And the camera probably won't do them justice, but they're beautiful. These are really beautiful. Lapis Lazuli for Integrity. Gorgeous. Larimer, another absolute favorite. Flow. I do have a little bit of Larimer. It's such a beautiful stone. Malachite for Responsibility. And this really looks like malachite. These swirls, which I'm sure have a much more technical name than swirls. Like, she really has captured what these stones look like, which I think is really amazing. Mookite, Stability. Moonstone for Intuition. This one is almost like looking through a glass, which is interesting. Ocean Jasper for Insight. Poppy Jasper for Expansiveness. Another favorite, Rainbow Fluorite for Focus. Again, really beautiful and captures what the light through a rainbow fluorite looks like. This colors really get at it, I think. Rainbow Moonstone for Meditation. Hopefully you can see there's kind of traces of rainbow there in the colors. Red Jasper for Empowerment. Rhodonite for Revitalization. It's a good word. And revitalization is relevant to thinking about forests as well, of course. Rose Quartz for Compassion. Ruby for Passion. As I see the camera here, this is looking a little bit orange. It's definitely red. Selenite for clearing, one of my favorite crystals, and I really like the texture here. Serpentine for regeneration, and here you see a tree that has gone down and others growing around it. Sugilite for nurturing. These colors are amazing too, the purples and blues. These paintings are gorgeous, like they're really, really beautiful. Smoky quartz for grounding. Snowflake obsidian for balance. Again, looks very much like the crystal. Sunstone for exuberance. Tanzanite for intellect. This one's almost a bit more like a clearing, like the trees are off to the side. Very pretty. Tiger eye for courage. Again, looks very much like the crystal. Turquoise for good luck. Vanadinite for motivation. And finally, wolfenite for amplification. So these would be great, I think, for a meditation theme, for energy of the day, for a kind of word of empowerment at the end of a reading. And the artwork is just stunning. So to give a sense of the guidebook, I'll just pick one and we'll see what the guidebook has to say about it. Blue kyanite for peace. So we can go to the guidebook and find that quickly since it's nice and alphabetized. The blue kyanite forest, and that's how they're all named in the book, is the crystal and then forest. The blue kyanite forest. Clear like a fresh mountain lake with pristine crystal blue waters and unspoiled views. Breathe the sweetest of air. The kyanite forest cleanses every part of your being and asks nothing in return. Here you will find peace and quietude as you realize your true potential. Sometimes we just need a little bit of space between moments to see things clearly. It is said that blue kyanite helps with communication as it opens up the throat chakra, so if you have trouble with public speaking or verbalizing your truth, you may like to wear a pendant made of this stone. So it gives a sense of some associations of the crystal. It gives a sense, that goes, I think, well beyond just the keyword of peace. It gives something to perhaps meditate on, the idea of space between moments, the idea of quiet space there. And then it does have a suggestion to use the crystal itself if you have it. But for me, again, the beauty of this really is that these so capture the crystals to me that I don't need to have the crystal. And so that is something that I really appreciate about this deck. That's my thoughts on the Crystal Forest Oracle. Let me know below if you also got this deck, if you have the first edition of this deck, and what your thoughts are. I think that this is a really beautiful set of forests, and for a druid, I am bound to like a deck about forests. So thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.